Welcome to Facing the Nation, a special edition for July 15, 2024. As promised on my last show, which was on Friday, that I will hold a special edition so that we can talk about some of the issues that are pressing, some of the things that we did not get to touch on Friday. So today we want to focus in on the demolition of the homes of persons and their livelihoods. And today, my discussion will be had with three persons who I will introduce shortly. But of course, before we get into our discussion, I want to tell you to call up a friend, call up a neighbor, and tell them Facing the Nation special edition is on today. It's your lunch period. Those of you at work, those of you who are doing your little thing, we are imploring you to just, take a look at us while you're doing what you're doing. But call up a friend, call up a neighbor, tell them Facing the Nation is on all our platforms. The People's National Congress Reform page on Facebook, APNU FC page on Facebook, and the APNU page on YouTube. So, every week, once we have a program, we never have enough time. So we're going to take these sessions and we're going to guide them. I do not want to delay the introduction of my guest. So I will start by introducing my guest for today. One guest is yet to come in, but I will start with the two that I have. I want to welcome to the program Miss Nima Flubeth, no stranger, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Youth, Sport and Culture. She is no stranger to this platform. You've been seeing her, doing her thing, getting the job done. With her is Mr. Sherwin Holder, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Natural Resource, and of course, the Chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, whom I promised to have you come back with him this week. So here we are doing that program that I would have promised on Friday. Welcome.
Thank you, Shanieka, for having me on Facing the Nation, and good day to your viewers.
Thank
Good
you.
day, and it's always a pleasure to be on this program, Shanieka. Thanks for having me. Good day to your viewers.
All right. So I want us to get right into it. We never have enough time on this program once we start talking, but we're going to start on a little sad note. I want us first to ensure that we share condolences and in grief with the family and relative of Mr. Jamal Adams, who would have, Joel Adams, I believe it is, yes, who would have passed away. He was one of the persons who would have attended the classes at the Aquatic Center, and unfortunately, he would have lost his life. I will allow the Shadow Minister of Youth, Sport and Culture just, give us some information on that, and, we express our condolence to the family.
Yeah, Shanieka, thank you. We must express heartfelt condolences to the classmates, the colleagues of Joel Adams and his relatives on his passing. It's a very sad moment to know that one of our youth with such great potential would have lost his life. And based on all the reports we've been getting, negligence and poor professionalism, this is something that has really troubled my mind because I know that the Learn to Swim program used to be run by proper professionals, qualified coaches, certified coaches, and lifeguards were present at this event. This was changed under this PPPC government, and so we're seeing the result of that. So today I must express condolences to his family. I'm worried about the children in the home, the dorms that was living with him. I know that the ministry had planned to restart the swimming program this morning. I hope parents didn't send their children. I know for the children at the orphanage, they probably won't have a choice but to return to that environment where they once saw their friend alive and then dead. So we must continue to call for justice for Joel Adams, and we trust that truth will prevail and the ministry will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also, at this time, before we get full into the program, want to wish the former president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Mr. David Granger, happy birthday. I do believe today is his birthday. Chairman, am I correct?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And let me also join with you in wishing our former party leader, first and
Yeah,
foremost. He was
correct.
party leader, then
Mhm.
president. That's what made him president. And so I want to take the opportunity as well to wish our past leader a happy, happy birthday today with God's richest blessing.
Happy birthday to our former president and leader of the party. I trust you have a blessed day and enjoy long life.
All right, thank you. All right, so I want to get right into, our topic for today, which we would have settled on displacement and inhumane treatment of our Guyanese citizens. I want to start out by talking about the most recent case, which has been Sarah Joanna,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is on the east bank of Guyana. And we would have seen the images and, heard stories coming out of that area over the last couple of days. And I know, MP Beth, you would have visited that area, I believe, as well. MP Coretta as well would have visited that area to bring some form of comfort and relief on the issue. MP, let's talk about that, and then I'll play a video that I want our audience to see as we continue this discussion.
Thank you. I must say that from the time the issue at Sierra Joanna took place, I would have visited at 6 a.m. the Saturday morning. Their homes was broken down the Friday. And my visit to them really caused me to start thinking about so many things, Cane View, Hillfoot, and all the other areas where persons' home would have been demolished. And as such, from my visit, I was able to get my colleagues to visit. Cormac Ferguson visited also. Cormac
Mm-hmm.
Correct and our colleagues from the AFC also would have visited. And when you visit the area, you recognize the need to give support to these poor families that have suffered such inhumane acts and injustice. I
Mm-hmm.
want persons to understand that at Sierra Joanna, the current sitting attorney general would have been engaging in those with those persons, and based on the information I would have had from the residents, under our time as, when the coalition was in government, they were working quite with those people with the idea of them having that land. And then after they took government, it suddenly becomes one person property, and I'm relating what is said to me by residents there. So
Mm-hmm.
all of their information, they have it. Now, when they got into government in 2021, after they decided that this one man, and I don't know his correct name, but I'll use what the people say, the Muslim man, this one Muslim man is claiming ownership of this area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the government went in, they registered for to get land allocation at a different area. 2021, we were in 2024. After that, they were invited to pay monies. Those who couldn't afford the monies required, they did not accept what they had. I remember we talking about poor families, not rich people, but you still didn't collect the little that they had. And when you talk with the residents, you would hear them tell you that they borrow money, some of them borrow money to raise the money they had to pay, because you get a call today and the next day you had to pay. Some of them had to do extra jobs to get money. And so they would have done what they should have done as residents. The
Mm-hmm.
government came in and they put in their application. Now, of course, you know the government and the propaganda after we visited that they are not responsible. They are responsible. for the issues that are happening to the people at Sierra Joanna from 2021 to 2024 is 3 years. And you did not make any effort to have these people allocated and placed in the area they have to. Now you wait until their homes are demolished. And it was 7 homes that have already been demolished and 15 children that are made homeless. Most of those families got 4 children. I still study the woman, the single mother that is out there on the trampoline with her 4 girl children. We still got the issue with the father who got 4 girl children too, from age 9 to 9 months. That's the range, the age range they fall in. He sleeps somewhere else at night while his wife and his children are sleeping at another location. Now, these are the things that these people at Sierra Joanna is faced with. I was there up to Saturday evening, checking with them, visit with the family, drop off a few things to assist them, because for me, it's about doing needs assessment and trying to meet their needs. It's not just about carrying stuff. So I took in food items because I know the week is started, people need food to cook every day for the children. I don't think the children deserve what they're going through. Nobody deserves what they're going through, but especially the children. When you look at these children, I'll tell people the image on Saturday morning, seeing these little boys being bitten by a sandfly. The sandfly, sandfly could be miserable, but they had no clothes on other than their shorts, because when the homes were broken down, everything for them was destroyed. Their personal items, their household items, every single thing was destroyed. So you have these children suffering. I look at how these boys held to their fathers who was trying to go out to try to get something for them to eat. They didn't want him to leave. And people are not thinking about the psychosocial impact that these children would have felt from observing, from seeing their homes demolished by a machine. And guess what? Supervised by the police officer. So you imagine a child growing up believes that this police ought to provide protection for them. So if they had an issue, I could run to the police. Do you believe that those children will actually believe that after they would have witnessed the police standing there, seeing a machine beating down their homes, their personal items, and even attacking some of their mothers and their fathers on that location? Again, persons will not think about the psychological effect that would have on those children, but I can tell you it's damning. The other thing about Sierra Joanna is that if they continue the demolition, it's 48 homes will be destroyed. And based on the information I would have received from a pastor who works in the area, there's about 120 children in that area. Could you imagine if we have 120 children homeless? So the demolition of stopped. And of course, you will see from the video that the same Kwami walk in with a whole story, trying to say that
I'll play that in a little while for the audience so that we can talk on that. I'll play that in a little while. I just want to welcome MP Coretta to the program, Shadow Minister of Education, and of course, no stranger to Facing the Nation or the platform. Welcome. I'm not hearing you though. Yes, just unmute.
My bad.
Yeah. Yes.
To you, good afternoon to my colleagues there, and thank you for having me on your program.
I wanted you to chime in at this point just before I play the video with Kwami McCoy and as well the response from the residents. But this issue at Sierra Joanna is a serious one even in the education sector, because these are children who are, most of them are school age. And, the government is walking around telling us about because you care cash grants, handing out money, but yet still these children don't have homes. When you're going to be finished with them, they don't have a home. How are they preparing for school? What is it that they will be doing? Will they be able to return to school? And is any provision for counseling or any of these things, happening for these children? Let's talk about that.
Well, Shanieka, This is just one in a many series of destruction and demolition that the PPP has embarked on since they took office in 2020. As a matter of fact, while we are zeroing on what has happened there on the East Bank, it's not only there alone. We have to remember that the East Bank especially seems to be the hub for the PPP's demolition. As a matter of fact, if you look at what is happening in the selected villages that they're choosing to do the demolition and destroying of lives and the kind of trauma that young Guyanese citizens, boys and girls between the ages of 4 months to about 15, what they have to endure. And these are the people who talk about how much they love children. I remember last week, Charles Ramson talking about how much they love youths. And this is what you do to them all the time. You destroy their lives. You destroy their families. You destroy where they call homes. And if persons are not taking note of what is happening now, then I don't want you to take note of what is happening later on. I remember visiting that area with my colleague Nima Flubert, and we saw their desperation, like everything else, in the faces of the residents there. I remember going in there and I saw one of our indigenous woman, a sister, a mother, with her mattress. That's all she could have saved, a mattress, and I think it was a pan or something. She had that mattress on her head, walking out of there in a hurry, because to her, it's as if somebody wanted to come to take that piece of only price material that she had remaining, wanted to take it away from her. And then when you saw the cries of a young 26-year-old father and a husband, who was able to put up a structure that he called home, that he called his palace, that he called his empire, that was taken away from him. And I vividly recall the president trying to embarrass a young 28-year-old reporter, telling him that he was not interested in development. But here on the other hand, you have a 26-year-old man with a family. His home was destroyed. They could have saved absolutely nothing. And this is what we talk about: because we care, because we love, we have interest at heart, and it all comes under the guise of development. I don't know how you're breaking down to develop. If you want to develop, then you must expand on what we have, not break down to start all over again. And it's disgusting when we look at when we see the kinds of inhumane actions that are being meted out to poor and ordinary Guyanese citizens by so-called big businessmen. And I figure we'll talk a little more about this as we go into the conversation. But it's sad. I sometimes can't find the right words to say, especially when I'm on these forums, to describe the actions of the PPP and what they allow some citizens to do to other citizens.
Correct. I will play the video, and Chairman, don't feel any way. You're in next after the video. In this,
Ladies before gents, anyhow.
Ladies before gents.
I really want us to have context on this, because there's so much more we need to talk about, because as the Miss MP Coretta alluded to just now, this is not the only incident. This is not the only place it's happening, and we're going to talk some more about that. Let's see the video from Sierra Jonah, where we listen to Kwami McCoy talk to some of the residents and in turn a response.
We all know why you're in this situation, right? And therefore, as a government who is concerned with people and their welfare and their development, we are here.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. You have a house lot?
No,
Yeah, but are you able to apply for one?
I apply, but we never been get through with it.
Why?
Because when I went in, at when the house in the call for us to go and make the down payment,
Mm-hmm.
when it had the meeting at Providence,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't afford the money they set me because it's like today get the car, tomorrow you have to go in. I
Mm-hmm.
only raised $100,000 when I go in, they didn't accept it.
So,
They say I had to make the ask of 125.
mm-hmm.
So I didn't make the whole 125. So when I go there with the 100, they said they didn't ask for that. We had to make the 125.
So they didn't accept
accept
your
the decline.
100,000.
They declined, yes. They said they only taking X amount to the people them at the set moment too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't just we in this area alone, it had different area that have been located at the set moment too.
All right. So where's the position now? If
Well,
you if have you asked them if they call and you don't have the money, what will happen?
I asked the question and they said when it's average they will see. We will see.
Will happen. All right. Thank you.
So here we hear from this young lady. We saw Kwame McCoy saying we all know why we're here. We all know why we're here. And basically, I think the response to that is because you have a horrible government. That's why he's here and trying to spin it somehow. Now imagine a young lady after you called her one day and she must come in the next day. These are ordinary Guyanese citizens who are struggling to make ends meet. And you call them today and expect tomorrow that they bring whatever money. Now you ask for 125,000 Guyana dollars, and she brought 100, and you refused it. Chairman, let's talk about that.
It's sick, evil, wicked, heartbreaking. So many adjectives I could use to describe the situation there. Kwame McCoy, I don't know how he became a minister, but I guess he's representative of that cabinet and that government, which is called the People's Progressive Party. I spoke with Kwame at the parliament last week pertaining to this very issue while we were in the line, while he was enjoying whatever food that was provided at the parliament and having a full plate at the parliament while those persons were out there suffering, struggling. And what he said to me, it took me back. I said to him, Kwame, why are you all doing this to these poor people? Said, well, they got to help. They got to be able to help themselves. I responded immediately. What do you mean by that? Say they got to pay 250. Why they can't pay 250? That is the thought process of these PPP ministers who sits comfortable in their mansions when the night come with their family, while at the same time you have these people out in the dew, out in the weather, without a home without a home. How many persons can afford to put up $100,000 in short notice? How many of us?
Mhm.
Let's just ponder upon that. How many of the ordinary Guyanese can afford to whip out 100 or 125,000 or $250,000
Oh yeah.
within a few days, within a month? Many of us don't work for that kind of cash. Many of us don't work for that. And so it is so disgusting to hear this kind of situation that exists in this country, this oil-rich country that we call Guyana. It's just disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, look, life is hard as it is already for a majority of Guyanese. The cost of living killing people already.
Mhm.
Owning a home, and I said it in my presentation in Parliament just a few months ago, and we talked about this issue about owning a home and the cost for these house lots. We moved a motion to reduce the cost. We told them all that these people are saying now. You would recall, my colleagues here on the program would recall that we all said the same thing. People can't afford it. People cannot afford
Mm-hmm.
to be called today, for tomorrow, for next week, maybe even next month to afford that kind of cash. When you go into a community, I heard Nima said about 40 homes, 48 homes, and you commence breaking those homes. Could we imagine where we live? Could we imagine where we currently live? That persons come in, whatever the issue is, but you come in, whether with notice or without notice, and you just break that down. You just break that down. You just destroy, and Coretta rightfully said it. It is not only homes, but it's also families are being destroyed.
Yeah.
I heard Nima talk about a husband not being able to sleep next to his wife and his kids when the night comes.
Mm-hmm.
Productive arrangements has to be made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're damaging these people. They will never be able to fully recover from such a situation. This is not a caring government. This is not what a caring government does. It is not what a government that is receiving billions and billions of money from oil. That is not what we do. And that is not what we should be doing as a government. You know, my takeaway from this is that we have got to do better.
Yeah.
And I'm committing. I know I'm now committing on the program, but I want to make this commitment very early that we will have to reverse a lot of these atrocities that were committed by the People's Progressive Party. We've
Yeah.
seen it. We've just seen it here, and we continue to see it in Sarah, Joanna. We saw it in Caneview. Nemo was at the front of that. We saw it in Success, where they flooded out those persons to the extent where one woman was injured, had a serious injury with the tree falling on her. We saw it at the jetty, the Vreeden Hoop jetty.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it
Yeah.
again at Hillfoot. And some of these things they're trying to hide under the cover that is a private matter. It can't be private when an entire community
It's being
is
up.
destroyed. It can't be private when people's homes, people's family are being destroyed. This is not a one-on-one situation. This is an entire community. It's an
Yeah.
entire community, and that is not the way we operate. That is not the way our government, any government led by the People's National Congress reform, that is not how we will operate.
Mm-hmm.
We
This
will have
is.
to correct it.
Mhm. Go ahead.
Our leader continues to speak on a citizens restitution board. I don't know if that will be the final name, but I think the people are getting the idea. We will have to look at these complaints and take serious measures to correct them, to have them corrected. And that is our promise to the people of Guyana, the people of Sierra Joanna, to the people of Mocha, and all those other areas where this wicked People's Progressive Party government would have destroyed them and their homes and their families.
But Shanika, if you allow me, I find it strange, and I didn't jump the step that the chairman jumped, but I find it strange that the government seems not to be aware that you have persons living in all of these areas, and that they would go ahead and sell to one man or one entity. And then they come out as if they're now Jesus and angels and lords. They come out now as being a savior. Oh, we come to find out. Aren't you aware that these people were living there for 28 years, for 30 years? In the case of Mocha, in the case of Sarah Johanna, in the case of the people at Success, in the case of the people living on the jetty, weren't you aware that these people were living there? And if you were aware that they were living there, why did you go out to sell to somebody else to displace these people? Why couldn't you find somewhere else to send it to sell to whoever you were going to sell it to? So we're seeing clearly that all of these areas where persons have been displaced are areas that are going to be what I must say, areas where you're going to have maybe roads passing through them, so they become now high-ended areas, if I can put it that way, and they are now areas of catchy areas. Let me put it that way. They're now catchy areas, and so you'll have the potential exist for big businesses to be established there. Maybe a hotel, maybe a resort, maybe a something, maybe a something. I find it strange that every time the government is not aware that persons are already living, they've already established themselves there, and then you go and you sell to somebody, and then you come to tell people, oh, don't let anybody come and make this a political issue. It has to be a political issue. It has got to be. Who sell these lands to these people? The government sell them. So don't tell people that it's not, don't let anybody come to make it a political issue. It is a political issue when you try to displace people. If you reflect on what happened in Mocha, on Cane View, we already knew what was the government's plan for there. We already knew what the government had planned for. Well, there is it, every time I see this, it raises another deep sense and degree of anger within me, because I was right there, and I was there watching the families screaming and shouting, little children. And then the PPP wants to turn around to talk about because they care about who. And these instances, these experiences will not die away with any $45,000. These incidents, these kinds of trauma will not go away with any kind of backpack and all the amenities inside of it. And so if the PPP think that they can come around and give her a red t-shirt and $10,000 and what I got now, Nima, they got something happening in Mocha there, school.
Summer school. Summer class.
Not summer school or summer class can erase that kind of trauma that children had to go through. No kind of summer school or no kind of cajoling by Kwami McCoy will erase the hurt that little 4-month-old child had to feel. And what the mother had to stand up there and see a man knocking down her house and a piece of wood falling on her child. So let them don't come and disguise this thing, because people's lives have been displaced. They have been separated from their families. A man in one corner and his wife and 2 children at some family somewhere far. People got to be exposed to living in shelters as if you're a nobody. So let them don't come around here and try to give the impression that they so care, because they just don't care.
I know you want to jump in, MP, but this is the point where I purposely allowed that video just now to play, because I want to show another clip where we really interrogate this, because what we saw at Caneview and what you were just watching on the screen is not just the demolishment of someone's home, it was also their livelihood. You can see that machine mashing up millions of dollars worth of stocks for that young lady who lived at that particular home. And, I remember having conversation with her when she had to go into banks and basically is still paying back for the loss.
Exactly.
Take a payment plan to pay more than $3 million back to stock that she was never able to sell, because they did not just destroy her home and all the other persons. They vindictively did not allow or even help to move that young lady's stock. And she had to pay, and she is paying banks back current millions of dollars. And then she had to pay a certain amount before she could have gotten credit again to even begin that business or bring that business back up. And this is the thing that we're talking about. We're not just only talking about the destruction of person's home. It is the destruction of their livelihood. It is a destruction of their well-being, their emotions, and everything all at once. Because when you have children and you have people looking on at something like this and having to continue to suffer because of these actions, we have an issue. I want to just play the video of that very young lady talking, and then I'll come to you, MP Beth.
Go back over. Has millions of dollars. I want Banks DIH, I want Ansi McCall to know that Chevron has millions of dollars in her property. And if her property has been break today, well, see me and understand with me that I'm not responsible.
That was her words as she was fighting to keep her premises up and was treated less than an animal by this regime, in that case, MP.
Yes, these videos, that's correct to say, it really to mind. I don't say on this program, but I know justice will come. Watching again the destruction of the Caneview folks, the government knew they were there. They were supposed to be regularized by housing. They were given house lot numbers and everything. They were told to put up their monies, but they had to pay. The place was already surveyed. So the government said that they know, big fat lie. When it comes to Hillfolk, the government knew that the people were there. They know of the families living there. The transaction was done after they took government, and they are fully aware of that. So if they're saying that they don't know, a big fat lie. Sarah Joanna is a PPP stronghold in their mind. These where the people normally vote. You will hear them say it on the program. They would have said it on several programs that they voted for the PPPC government. But what they didn't recognize, they were voting for a heartless bunch of people who were encouraging them while they were out of government to squat and to take up the land. They regularized the front, which was also squatting, regularized that piece, and now the back part where the road is supposed to pass close by. My colleague mentioned that. I hand now. So those 48 homes must be removed so that this one Muslim man will get it. Again, they're saying that they don't know, a big fat lie. The same thing to success on the East Coast. You all remember while we were in government, they were there encouraging people to squat. As they were encouraging the people to occupy the land. After they took government, they went and they flooded the people. So them saying that they don't know, another big fat lies. So the people of Guyana need to recognize that the PPPC government is a government that spend all their time lying to the nation that they don't know. They know they're predators. They're going to prey and they look at the poor people and they continue to punish people, the poor people that have needs in this country. You think they can go and try to tie in community and decide that they can go and lash down the people's homes because they know probably a lawsuit would catch them, people stand up to them. But the poor, the people who could hardly stand up for themselves are the ones they're affected. But again, God don't sleep. I know justice will come. It will come for those people who continue to cry their tears. The people of Sarah Joanna, they're going into the housing area. You know how much problem we get them? You know how much staff they're running them? They know that they've graded on the home. Some of them, they've identified an area for them. But of course, you know, a lot of work has to be done to fix the area so that they can go and live there. Some of them going in, they don't have the money. You just break up everything for them. And you're telling them you can't look at them because you don't have the money, but you took out bread out of the people's mouth.
Correct.
You took the bread out of the people's mouth. So you have to put things in place to deal with this. Again, people of Guyana, do not be fooled by the PPP and their rants and raves that they don't know. And they're carrying, they're demonic. It's a demonic government. And that's why they're operating how they're operating.
One of my questions here is exactly why do you believe that they are progressing and, you know, continuing these extreme attacks on, you know, families and individuals and, you know, our children in this regard of demolishment and, you know, eradicating people's livelihood? I mean, you just give me, your reasoning for it. If I may ask the other two before, the other two MPs before we proceed, why do you feel that we're still at this place? We've seen what has happened in Mocha, and we saw Mocha, there is Hillfoot. We're going to get to Peters Hall in a moment. I want to show a video from there as well. You have success. Chairman talked about Freedom Hoop. It's as if they're just going around the place, just, without care, disturbing the lives of ordinary Guyanese. Why?
You know what I'm going to say? They are taking the livelihood of people and then running in to say they are saviors with some pittance. That's what they're doing. So they break up and then run in to look as though, we care. That's why we're doing that. So they're creating scenarios so that they can look good, but they can't look good. No matter how they do it, it can't look good because in the first place, you have done wrong to poor and ordinary Guyanese. So when they come with I went to the area and I asked, what was being done? I was in Sylvia and I asked, and you hear people say 10-day worker, get jobs. I said, there's nothing that the government doing for you. Because your 10-day, 40,000 a month can't cover your expense. So there's nothing. They come and do road, they're supposed to do the road. There's not a gift. They come and they put light, they're supposed to put the light. They come and put water, they're supposed to put it because they're the government. So when they break down the homes and they take away the livelihood of the poor people, it's for them to try to play that they're saints and then they're coming to say they're giving you something. Doesn't make sense. It don't work. It can't work.
Chairman?
To answer your question, I think it's a combination of things. In some cases, we found that it's a clear case of discrimination. In other areas, you find it's a blend, some discrimination mixed with corruption. But I think at the top of it, it's all about them being a class government, a government of a particular class, and a government who is only concerned about a particular section of the people. And unfortunately, the people at the bottom are not the ones who they care about. It's more about friends, family, and favorites. A small clique that is in the hierarchy of the PPP or affiliated with that hierarchy. And so that is how they operate. In some cases, we might get the feeling that, they might do this to Afro-Guyanese, but not do it to Indo-Guyanese. In many cases, they've done it also to Indo-Guyanese. Some of these communities, especially poor Indo-Guyanese, they won't challenge the much wealthier persons, but poor Indo-Guyanese, poor Afro-Guyanese are the common targets. Look, in Region 2 here, which is a predominantly Indo region and historically supported the PPP, since they came to power, they attacked the vendors at Regina Market. And when you go out there, it's mostly women, poor women or Indo-Guyanese women who would have worked their life off out there. Single parents, many of them single parents, or most of them single parents out there, and they still attack them. It's the same thing, they're attacking the livelihood of these people. And you had rumors since then that what they wanted to do was to give to this market, this prime real estate, to a close friend of the government, so that he can build whatever, a shopping mall, whatever. That is how the PPP operates. They do so with Indo-Guyanese, your Afro-Guyanese, maybe Afro-Guyanese would have suffered much more, or to a wider extent. But really and truly, they don't care about the common man. They're very uncaring. They're only looking to put monies in their pockets. And if you examine closely each and every destruction, each project of destruction, so I would term it, you will see behind it. If you follow the money, you will see that objective. Mocha, prime real estate, the road now runs through there, and it's prime real estate. Vidanoop jetty there. You got the island off, the island gas, shore-based stuff taking place there. So again, it's prime riverside estate. When you look at the way how they're treating where the bridge is now coming from over region 3 into region 4 on the east bank there, and the treatment of different persons, you get the idea. Just follow the money. Just follow the money. And so I think that is where that is the real answer to your question. They're about themselves, their family, their friends. They're about putting monies in their own pockets, and that is the vision. We will find, I'm certain, that as we approach election season, this thing will ramp up. While persons might be of the view that it will scale back, it will not. It will ramp up. They're in a panic mode at this time, and so I believe there will be massive land grabbing, and ultimately it is the poor people that will suffer. Ultimately, it's the poor people that will suffer in this country and continue to suffer under this People's Progressive Party. I'd say this before Coretta comes in. This is nothing new. It's just on a larger scale. Robeson Ben, the former minister known as Brock Up in those days, to bring the hammer, and they always use persons of a particular ethnicity to do these kinds of jobs. Kwami McCoy, as despicable as I believe he is, I think he's still being used to serve that purpose. Robeson Ben was used many times. Even Ejil with his big mouth, he is frequently used. And so that is how this government operates. This is their MO. That is how they operate. And the faster Guyanese people recognize this and get rid of them, the better it will be for all of us in Guyana.
Mm-hmm. MP Coretta. I think she may be having some issues. MP Coretta, can you hear me? I think she's paused there. All right. I'm sure when we get her back, we can she will make her comments. I want to pull up. Are you hearing me, MP Coretta?
She's having some issues.
All right, I'm not sure what is happening if you're hearing me. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I am.
Good. So I'm just going to say this. The PPP, they are an oppressive government. They are oppressors. And they gloat in oppressing persons who cannot stand up to them. If we look at what has happened in all of the areas that we've mentioned, they gloat in doing that. They feel that instilling fear into persons will be their way of ruling. And so what they go out there to do, they go out there to divide and rule. They go out there to administer fear or instill fear. And they go out there simply to oppress those who cannot stand up to them. And it's all about the 3 F's: friends, favorites, and the families. And their main aim is to build empires in every area in Guyana so that they can be in full control. Like my colleague would say, control freakism. That's what they're about. They see nothing wrong with what they do. And they have a famous saying that they would say in the National Assembly: you can have your say and you can say all that you want, but we will have our way. And that's the modus operandi of the PPP. And it can be proven in every single thing that they are doing across this land. You are seeing it's either our way or no way at all. I really didn't want to bring this part in, but since we're here, I have to bring it in. And I'm going to say what the man on the street is saying. The man on the street is saying the Mohammeds, especially the younger one, presented a threat to the PPP, And so what they did, threw him under the bus. And that's the way the people those in the People's Progressive Party operate. MUCA has always been a stronghold of the coalition or the PNC. And you know what they've been doing all the time? They've been trying to find ways and means of being able to sneak themselves in by one, instilling fear in the people, and then two, you come and you pretend to be saviors, and you come there with a couple of things to offer them. The same thing they do all around the place. But I'm hoping again that right-thinking citizens will understand and they would see clearly through the moves of the PPP. Because when you go to this, who has been in an area for 30 years, aren't you thinking, isn't there common sense to tell you, look, rather than displacing this man or this woman who has been there for 30 years, let me give another plot of land to somebody who, quote unquote, want to invest. Let me give them another plot of land. But you prefer to demolish, demonize, demoralize, instill fear and destroy, and then you're going to give them another plot of land. And the irony of this whole thing is, when you do all of the D's on one side, you expect to give them a plot of land. I don't know how that equation matches or how it balances the equation, but that's the operation of the PPP. They're wicked, they stink, they're demonized, and they are a bunch of oppressors.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. I want us to take a look at, I want to bring into light an update that was done on Peters Hall over the weekend. I want to play that video for our audience, and then we'll talk about that as well.
Afternoon. So we are here in a walkabout in the Peters Hall area. We're in the back street, and we've been interacting, myself, MP, and some other comrades. I've been interacting with the residents of the affected area where the bridge will be built. And so the house at the back here has been given the valuation based on Patterson's valuation, where the government give them a substantial amount of monies to be removed, while the other houses around have not been given that amount. They want to give them the government valuation, which is far lower. And I want to say that this is so unfair. We are talking about one Guyana, and the government want to talk about inclusiveness, but this is one of the most unfair things. We came from the front street where the residents are talking how they cannot sleep because of the trucks running, carrying in stuff and so forth. And they are traumatized. They are traumatized every day. They want to move. It's not that they don't want development for the country, but what they want is a fair share, because many of the residents have been here for years. Some of them, they are born here. Their children are born here. They have fruit tree. They have so many different things, and they are not getting value for their property. And this is one of the only country this is happening, and it is so unfair. People of Guyana, we need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to come out, and we need to talk about the unfairness that is happening in this our country. Our people are being dislocated, and the government do not care.
Well, you know, I am here and I'm happy to be here because we're looking at this building behind me that the government has offered between $56 to $57 million somewhere there for that property. And right opposite where we have Auntie Vashti, she's been given a lower rate. We went right around the corner, and another resident there has been offered $27 million for her property, which is far better than this one here.
Concrete
and so
structure.
Again, that's a concrete structure, 2-story concrete structure. And we you know, sometimes you're amazed when you see the person in the form of Bishop Edgil and the vice president and the attorney general they're trying to bamboozle these people. And I want to say to us, we are all Guyanese. We are bona fide Guyanese. And if you're going to offer one resident A, then you must offer the other residents the same amount. I mean, people have been living here for the longest while. They have bearing fruit trees, and you're telling them that you're offering them 27 million as against 56 million. This can be,
but
this
MP,
can only be one Guyana. Let me say that.
But MP, that's not even the fair thing. They didn't only offer this resident here who wasn't even living in the property 57 million.
another story.
They also rented a property in Republic Nandi Park for him. In addition to that, they've already begun constructing a house for him, right? Tell me how fair is that, right?
But this is the one Guyana that we talk about.
But
all
let
the
me
time.
also
as
say-
a matter of fact, I shouldn't say we. This is the one Guyana
They've been talking about.
We know that there's no one Guyana here. There are three Guyanas. We know that. One for the elites, one for the friends, the favorites, and the family, and the other one for bona fide Guyanese. Or maybe we can say there are four Guyanas. One for the Venezuelans and one for the bona fide Guyanese. It is so unfair what people have to go through.
In addition to that, the resident in front of that we were talking to, they did not realize her husband was of a different ethnic group.
And so that's the laugh. When
That
they
is the
signed
laugh.
off, they were prepared
to pay him.
a substantial amount. And then when they recognized that his wife is Afro-Guyanese, they decided to give them some troubles.
That made me cry.
I mean, this
You
is
know?
the one Guyana that they're preaching. It could never be one Guyana. And so, citizens, we have to wake up and we have to recognize that the PPP, they are no good for
They
Guyana.
are no good.
All they set out to do is to put a wedge in between Guyanese, those who are Indians and those who are blacks. Well, I don't know what they're going to do with some of us, because some of us who have children that are mixed, and some of us who have husbands that are East Indian Guyanese, some of us who have husbands that are Amerindians. I don't know what they're going to do with us. Maybe they'll come in our homes to try to separate us. But this is what the PPP government do all the time.
Yeah.
And there we have it. And, you know, I wanted to show that because you also had the clippings of the different places that, you know, they showed. You can jump in here on this.
Well, you know, sorry.
I'm happy that Loretta and my colleagues, my comrades had the experience that I've been having ever so often visiting the area, and again was able to highlight the facts on the ground at what is happening in Petersall. And the government still continue their barefacedness, you know. Those people, some of those persons are going to court, I think it's August 7th and 10th that they have to go to the court. So we have to be following up on that particular issue. Let's see what will play out in the courts.
MP Macdonald.
Well, you know, like I said, I was happy to have been there yesterday to do my own bits of walking around and to pick up the information we picked up there yesterday. And here you see it plain as day. The PPP, all they do is set out to divide and rule and to create confusion amongst our people. In Peters Hall, they are talking about. Now, let me say from the set, that was not the original location where the bridge was supposed to have been constructed. That was not the site. But this is what they do all the time.
She seems to be having some internet issues there. All right. I think
they seek to erase, to try to erase history. But let me put them on notice. You cannot erase what has already been done. What has been done has already been done. You can't erase that. You cannot erase the fact that it was LFS Barnum when he was the leader and he was prime minister and he was president. It was under him that we got the Demerara Harbor Bridge. You can't erase that. So whether you try to build a new bridge and move the direction and so on that it was allocated, that was earmarked for the bridge to touch down, you cannot erase history. I listened, and I'm going to take us a little further. I listened when she was piloting the amendment for the University of Guyana to bring in all the people who they want to bring to have total control. She went on to talk about it was Comrade Shedi Jagan who started the University of Guyana, and and so we asked, what about LFS Barnum? Shedi Jagan started the night school. Who caused the official structure and so on to come into being? And who gave free education from nursery to university? And you know what she said? If y'all want that to be mentioned, say it when you come to the podium. And that's the kind of stupidity that these people come around the place with. But let me go back to Peters Hall. At Peters Hall, we saw there where some residents were told that anything. What?
We definitely seem to have some
hand them a document. And we saw Auntie Vashti there who said, I am not collecting. And the word consultation is a word that really scares the PPP. They can't deal with that word that says consultation. They don't know how to go out there to meet the people to talk to them about anything. And so they're trying to bully these residents from off of their lands that they occupied for many, many years. Now, the residents there are saying, we don't want to hinder development. We don't have a difficulty moving. What our problem is that we must be properly compensated for our place. We must be compensated properly for moving from our area, where we called home for many, many years, to another area. We must be properly compensated. And if you're going to give one resident that is opposite another resident X amount, then the other resident must be given the same X amount. And that's what the PPP are having a difficulty with. And rather than sitting and settling with the residents there, they have decided that they are going to take them to court. So they've taken 11 of the residents to court. We await that kind of their day and the judgment that is going to be handed down by the judge. But it is clear as day that the PPP, their only mandate is to displace, oppress, and divide. That's their mandate.
On this Peters Hall matter, if I recall correctly, Chairman,
I am not sure what is happening with us.
I'm hearing you. We're hearing you. I'm saying that with this Peter Hall issue, if I recall correctly, Chairman, there was a feasibility.
I think we lost contact or something like that. I don't know. And we find that these things always happen when we're having line our people on the atrocities of the PPP, that these are the kinds of things that they do to us all the time. They invade our spaces.
All right. Thank you, MP. We were hearing you just now. Yes, I was saying that a feasibility study was done for the bridge. And
Chairman, are you hearing me?
Location. We're hearing you, MP, but 1 second.
I don't hear anything you were saying either. I don't know.
We're hearing you, correct.
Mute for a moment. All right, thank you. Yes, a feasibility study was done and a different location was provided because of that feasibility study. And you had the PPP coming into power in 2020 and deciding without another feasibility study or anything to that nature, and then decided that they were going to change the location of this bridge. Let's talk about that.
Well, you're absolutely right. We had a plan for this country, whether it was infrastructure, areas in power, electricity generation, water distribution, social services. We had an entire plan, which we executed from 2015 to 2020. And there was many parts. There was only so much that you could have done within those 5 years, and then you had that no confidence and everything at that stage from that person at Parliament, which would have brought some of those plans to a halt somewhat or slow them down. And so when we left office, we would have left many of those plans there. They know fully well, they have the documentation, although they often say that they don't, they have no clue of it, but they have all the records there. But they are a kind of government which is very vindictive, a government that tries to erase all that was done before by their predecessor. It doesn't matter whether whatever was good, if it was a good project, their whole intention is to destroy whatever you had there and then come back from scratch to say that, well, we do this. Two things they're accomplishing by that. One, they would be able to say, well, they did it. They're hoping that over a period of time, people will forget what would have obtained before or what existed before. And so after some time, they will be able to own that project. The next thing that they accomplish by it is the corruption that goes with it. They're able to make a lot of money through these new projects. So once you discard certain feasibility studies, and I come to that because it considers the finances, it considers several factors. And maybe, just maybe, if you go through that feasibility study, you might find that you could have built a bridge that would have cost half the amount of money. You could have built a bridge that cost half the amount of money. You would not have had the kind of displacement and money is to be made, but through compensating persons and overcompensating in some areas and undercompensating in other areas, because in the final analysis, we don't get to see those documentation.
Yeah.
Someone might learn that they're only getting $10 million when in fact it's 20 million on the books. And then in the other case, as I saw in the video, that individual is being compensated. I don't know if it's over and beyond. They're being given a home to stay at for the time being. All these things involve money, and money certainly are going in somebody's pocket. So there are benefits to be derived from these sort of actions that we see the PPP are taking. But outside of that, they generally don't like feasibility studies. They recall Barjack you saying that, you know, the only thing the PNC like is to do studies. Well, we have to do those studies. In order to get right, we have to do those studies. You wouldn't end up in these kinds of problems if you have proper studies done. If you have proper studies done, you never end up in these kinds of issues that we see is obtaining at this point in time. You know, so it's a lack of competence or incompetence. It is also corruption at play when it comes to these kind of issues. That's why they don't like these studies. Consultation, again, I heard you mention consultation. That is not something that is in the PPP's book. They believe in domination and control. Divide this society, dominate them and control. What benefit is there to be derived from consulting with people? They don't see that as a necessity. They don't see that as something that is a part of the transparency and accountability process. They don't see that. Who needs transparency and accountability when we have oil money flowing like water? You know, who needs that? The more they could be shady, the more these things could be hidden, it will benefit them, benefit their friends, their families, and cronies. And so that is what it's about.
As a matter of fact, Chairman, the PPP are still living in the days of the 60s, 1960, 1964, and those days. They're still living in those shady days. And they have failed to recognize that now people may seem to be illiterate, but people are wise with the use of social media and everything else. Guyanese people are no longer left behind as the PPP would want to think. Our people are up to date with everything that is happening. And so that is the fear of the PPP. When they go out there to consult, they're afraid of the questions that they are going to be asked. Because of course, you know, they can't provide the answers to those questions. They're afraid that they're going to be exposed many, many times. And that is what they fear. And so in order to avoid that, they don't consult. They just come with the big stick or the big hammer method. And I noticed one Edgil is now picking up from where Brock Ben left off. And so the demolition and all the displacement and so is continuing. And I'm hoping that persons are recognizing the trend. Every time the PPP come around, you have drugs, you have murders, you have crime on the increase. Every time the PPP come around. Every time the PPP come around, you have unprofessionalism in our various sectors. Every time the PPP come around, it is about them, their families, their friends. We just saw the issue there with the allegations that are being leveled at the Minister of Agriculture with properties and all of these things. We hear about the black belly sheep. We hear about all of these projects, all these construction sites. Every time the PPP come around, it is about failure and more failure and the fraud and corruption every time they come around. We talk about the North Roosevelt Multilateral School, 8 months behind schedule. We talk about Bamia Primary School. They too have asked for another extension. I don't know. And these are the persons who are in close connection with them. These are the people who they sit and knock glasses with. So every time the PPP are in office or the PPP is in office, you see a particular trend. You see a particular trend. Guyana was on the blacklist. When the coalition got into office, we were removed. Now the PPP is there. We are fastly approaching the tape to be blacklisted again. And so nothing has changed from the PPP. Like they would say, you can take a pig out of the mud, but you can't take the mud out of the pig. A leopard doesn't change its spots. And so this is the PPP. This is the real beast. This is the real beast, the PPP. And I'm hoping again, Guyanese citizens, let me put you on notice. Go out there and get registered. Go out there and ensure that your names are on the list, that your name is correctly spelled so that come elections day, you can go out there and vote like a boss and vote them out because they are no good for Ghana. We have seen what has transpired in the education sector. Man, if you go to some of the education departments, you want to know where we really, whether we're in Guyana or some other part of the world. And you see the cronyism and so on in the sector, in the education sector. And when they put the square pegs in the round holes, they can't function. We see the whole big blow up with the grade 6, the national grade 6 assessment results, examination results. And so that is the PPP. That's the PPP. And all they try to do is to put nice curtains over their freaky and corrupt tendencies. We just saw the other day a young man losing his life at the aquatic center. Up to today, not a statement from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And that's the same minister who talks about loving youth. Not a statement. We have seen all the little things that happened there where there was no proper cohesion, there was no proper supervision, there was no proper nothing. That young man has lost his life. Families are grieving, but no. Nothing big about that for the PPP. We have not even had a word of caution saying to them, well, the pool is closed. As we speak, the pool is still open. The same thing in education. Not a word from the education ministry to say to the parents, we are sorry for the mix-up. We are going to be reviewing this. All you're seeing is messages going to head teachers and asking them to return the examination slips. And so this is the PPP. Corrupt, more corrupt, and the most corrupt.
Thank you very much, MP. We definitely have to have another segment where we zero in on education.
Chairman, are you still there?
We're hearing you very loud and clear.
Yes, so I'm not sure what is happening with Shanieka, but I know that we are almost there.
what I'm saying, MP. All right, I'll continue. I guess she lost some sound there. But I will definitely have to have a program where we just zero in on education because there's so much, of course, to talk about. You know, every time we get started, we talk about how the time runs away. And I am definitely out of time, but I will give all of you an opportunity to give closing remarks. I just want to say, because I'm as well looking at the comments as we have been speaking. And I see people talking about, you know, why we don't have lawyers working on these matters. And I want to let the public know, if you're not aware, many of these cases are in the court and they have been pending for a while, and we're waiting to see what comes out. The matter of Peter Hall, the Cane View matter as well is in court. Quite a few of these matters are in court, but no decisions have been met on these issues as yet. I also see in the comments persons are talking about, you know, what we do next. And MP Coretta started to talk about what we do next. And how do we fight as an opposition, as a people, as citizens of this country, against what is happening? First, it is to hold them accountable. We have to continue to keep them to the fire, allow persons to hear what is happening, so nobody can say they didn't know the PPP was doing this, they didn't know. The next thing you have to do is ensure that you're registered to vote. We are approaching a regional and general election, and you have to ensure that you're on the list. Of course, we know the issue of the list. Every Tuesday in front of GCOM at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we will be there again. Persons can come out, you know, and be with us as we protest and call for a clean voters list and biometrics. That is something that the citizens have to come out and help. Political parties and political figures are there to help to give guidance, but the people, the citizens, have to help us hold the government accountable, and these actions are a part of it. And ultimately, when the regional and general elections are called, it is our responsibility as citizens of this country to go out and vote on the policies and vote on what you have seen happening in the country. We can sit here and talk about everything that the PPP is doing, but at the end of it, when that election is called, it is up to the citizens of Guyana to ensure that they hold this government accountable. As we wrap up, we are past the 1:30 hour. I want to permit you about 2 minutes to wrap up, say anything that you felt that you needed to tell the public as we close up today's program. Nima.
Thank you so much. I want to say to the viewers and those who will listen after this program, I know two comments that stood out to me. One person saying we're dealing with a transactional government, which I agree. And a number of persons talking about the uncaring government. We all agree with that. It simply means that we have to ensure that we're on the list. We have to be prepared to vote. We have to be prepared to stand up. The opposition is just 31 MPs. But if 31 MPs are there doing the work and get the support of all the other thousands of persons out there that agree that we are in a crisis and come out and give your support, be it at the protests, use your social media platform, record information, take up information that is things that are happening in your community, it will go a long way. I want to say to our people, vote the PPP out of office comes the next election. They must go. You got to vote for us, vote for change. You can guarantee that you will not suffer like you've been suffering under this PPP government with their uncaring and wicked action. God bless you and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chairman.
Thanks, Shanieka. All I would say is that Guyana is in crisis at the moment under this People's Progressive Party government, under your Fanali and Barra Jagdeo. We need a government that is competent, a government that is honest, a government that is transparent, a government that is not corrupt, and importantly, a government that cares for all of its people. We in the PNCR, we commit to those values. We commit to the fact that any government led by us after the next election will put its people, our people, all Guyanese first. We have a people-centered approach or people-centered strategy which caters for all Guyanese, which says that all of our people will be able to enjoy our national patrimony. We will engage in nothing less than good governance. And that is our contract with the people of Guyana. I urge that you become more conscious, and as the MP Nima Floubert said, join with us, join hands with us in exposing all the ills in our society today, all the ills being created by this wicked and corrupt People's Progressive Party government. Join with us in exposing them and join hands in this campaign as we move closer towards the 2025 or whenever those elections are called.
Thank you so much. MP Coretta?
Hi, thanks. I'm back again. I just want to join with my colleagues to say that the PPP is no good for Guyana. The PPP is a group of people who look after themselves, and they're only interested in other Guyanese citizens when it's time to get your vote. Be not dismayed because of what is happening. Don't be fooled. Just remember that in the 3 years you were enjoying the good life. In 3 years you were living in comfort. In the 3 years you were rid of the murders and execution style shooting. You were rid of the drugs. You were rid of Guyana being blacklisted. If you join with us on this side, we are going to lead you down the path that says a good life for all. Our fight is not with each other. Our fight is with the PPP. And for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. Whenever that time comes around, citizens of Guyana, remember the atrocities that were meted out by the PPP. Remember our sisters and our brothers and our children in Maka. Remember the Bacchus family. Remember Orange Boston. Remember the Henry boys. Remember so many others who we cannot have answers to why they were killed and who killed them. Remember Ronald Waddell. Remember Courtney Kwami Wing. Remember there's so many other fathers, children who are living without their fathers. All were killed at the hands of the PPP. Join with us as we walk you down a path that says rent to own, free education for all, peace and tranquility, and equality, whether you live in Region 1 or you live in Region 10. It is going to be equal opportunities afforded to all Guyanese.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to remind our viewers as we close off as well, on the issue that we discussed today, it must be reminded that the opposition and in the leadership of the People's National Congress Reform, it has been made clear that any persons who are affected during this period of the unleash of the PPP on ordinary Guyanese, that compensation will be met once our government goes into office to ensure that these atrocities and the victimization faced, that there be justice fit, and of course compensation for those who we know at this time the PPP has no care for an intention of giving compensation for that. I want to remind us that we have to continue to hold this government accountable for every single thing that they do. And it is important that we ensure that all of those who can be registered are registered. And it is also important for us to understand that whenever those elections are called, every single eligible person must make their way to the poll and teach this PPPC government a lesson that they will never, ever forget, as they are doing in a very horrible way to our people. I want to remind us as we close as well that the protest continues in front of GCOM tomorrow from 1 to 2. We will be in front of the GCOM office as we continue to call for a clean voters list and biometrics. So we have to continue to hold the government accountable and do the work that is necessary. Continue to follow our page as we keep you updated. I want to thank you for joining us today on this special edition of Facing the Nation. And I may see you before Friday, but of course on Fridays we know it is 12:30 to 1:30 Facing the Nation. Thank you for joining today's program.